let me state the obvious. Leaders struggle with change because change is hard. And I've found that these leaders that love to change, they love change when they're directing the change, but they're real resistant to it if somebody else is directing the change. And so I think the obvious reason that this question of why is it so hard is because change is hard. But let's not talk about why, but let's talk about what it requires of leaders to shift. John says it all the time. I love this statement. Change is growth and growth is change. And at the John Maxwell Company, John Maxwell himself, we value growth. We value growth. So if we value growth as a leader, who wants to be a part of something dead? I don't imagine any of us really want to be a part of that. So if we don't want to be a part of something that's stagnant or dead, then that means we want to be a part of something that's growing. Therefore, by default, we want to be a part of something that's changing. And so what I love that John does in this book is he talks about the imperatives of shifting as a leader, of changing. Changing is growth. Growth is changing. And as we change, we should shift. I think that our response to change should not be resistance, but it should be embracing that. The best leaders, the ones that I've worked with around the world, those are the leaders that embrace change as a requirement, but as essential. So I think the biggest thing that we can do to embrace this idea of shifting or changing is to realize it's imperative for us to get where we want to go. Stay where you are, no change, no shifting needed. Grow to where you're going, you're going to need to change. I think conforming and adapting is very similar. I need to conform to the vision. I need to adapt to the vision. That's something that we as leaders struggle with all the time. Am I conforming? Am I adapting? I think conforming is changing yourself to gain the approval of someone else. Never a good idea. I don't want to conform so that I reach somebody else's approval. Do I do it? Yeah, I'm a people pleaser. I see a couple of you agreeing. I'm a people pleaser. But when I conform as a leader, I'm changing so that I can gain someone else's approval. That is an elusive goal because you can never get satisfied and you can never make an accomplishment conforming. I think adapting is changing your perspective to gain someone else's influence. So are you conforming to get approval? Or are you adapting to gain influence? And as a leader, I think we should shift our propensity to change, our mindset, so that I'm adapting. I've been working for John Maxwell for 19 years. I know I don't look it. I know, don't judge. But I have. I've been working for John for 19 years. And what I have learned, whether I was in the stock room, whether I was on the phone teleselling, whether I was leading teams, that my ability to adapt was my ticket to advancement. No doubt about it. You know why? Because a leader like John, who is always shifting, he talks about 11 in this book, because John's always shifting. And as his right-hand guy, as the CEO, I need to be adaptive to that shift so that I can execute with the vision that he's given us. So it's extremely important that we do adapt, but don't conform and lose your identity in the process. I love this question. What do we do to make sure there's not all this conforming and adapting? Because throughout this application series of this content, we're going to be talking a lot about accountability of groups just like this. This kind of a group, what we're doing, the study that we're embarking on with this content is imperative to make sure you're not conforming, but that you're adapting. We'll talk a lot about inner circle, outer circle. We'll talk about people that we bring into our life to learn how to shift properly. One thing I love about John, strong leader, powerful, powerful leader, but never make a mistake. He is always in rooms, in environments just like this, trying to figure out the best idea. Not a good idea, not to communicate his idea so that everybody gets on board, but to truly listen so that we can understand what the best idea is. 72 years of age at the writing of this book. and still sitting in tables in environments like this with all the wisdom, all the success that you can imagine. He's sitting in environments like this saying, hey, how can I learn right here? What can I do? That's what I love about this book. It's not shifts that John recommends, it's shifts that he's made. He has made these shifts that we're talking about in this study. He's made them, he's applied them. Now he's allowing us to reproduce them in our own leadership journey. And again, I think that a leader that is not shifting is a leader that is finished. He's crossed some finish line. He's accomplished something that has satisfied her or satisfied him to a point that she doesn't feel like I need to shift and adjust to get to the next place. So when we ask ourselves this question, how can I make sure I'm adapting and not conforming? It's in environments just like this. Get in environments like this. Learn from others. I love this quote. I love it. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Love that quote. You know why? Because it doesn't take somebody that talks with a English accent. It can be somebody that talks with a Southern accent. That if the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I've been with John for 19 years. I've been shifting for 19 years. I've been learning leadership. I've become a student of John Maxwell. And what I've discovered is my best learning has been with environments that I have intentionally created to learn in. So I think back 15 years ago, I started this group called a Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers. And it was a group of 5 guys. When I was trying to figure life out, my appetite for leading, did I want to lead in big environments like this organization? And I brought in these young men that was in kind of the same stage of life that I'm in, 5. And every Thursday for 14 years, 13 years. Again, every time I say things like that, I feel the age of that. 13, 14 years. Every Thursday that I was in town, we met. Every Thursday. And we made a decision. We're going to live life. Personal, professional, every area of life we brought to a table and we lived that out. I called them my Band of Brothers. They profoundly made a difference in me in creating an awareness of how I could get better. They challenged me. They directed me. They were a sounding board for me. It was people that I was just doing life with. The second group that I learned from John is an inner circle. And I'm going to talk about an inner circle and an outer circle as we discuss this question. But an inner circle is someone that really knows you, that understands your values. I bring people into my inner circle that knows what I care about. In fact, they care about what I care about. They know who I am. They know what motivates me. They know what inspires me. They know the days that I'm off. They know the days I'm a little too intense. I don't know if any of you work around intense people. People that work for me, they work around an intense person at times. I have an inner circle that says, hey, you might want to calm down a little bit as you present this. You're just coming across a little intense. But this inner circle really serves to keep me on point with who I am and where I'm going. And then John teaches the concept of the outer circle, the third group, that has profoundly impacted my journey of leader shifting. And this is the outer circle. These are the people that are gifted differently than I. These are women and men that they think differently. They dream differently. They see things bigger, better than I do. In other words, what they do is they challenge me to get out of my comfort zone. I'm a people person. I love people. In fact, we'll do a group hug before it's all over with. I guarantee you. I just love people. But you know what I love in my leadership? I love contrarians. People that don't agree with anything. I would describe which category my wife was in, but I'm afraid she'll watch this program. So we're not going to go there. I love contrarians. I love people that will challenge me to think differently. That's the purpose of the outer circle. I believe if John Maxwell, and I certainly believe this of Mark Cole, if I would have not surrounded myself with people that were smarter, better, faster, more equipped than I would never have had the ability to shift. So when I go and I really ask this question, how do I develop an awareness? How can we challenge each other around this table to develop an awareness? My challenge to myself is, who's in my band of brothers? Who am I living life with? A man is not an island until himself or herself. They're not. So who am I living life with? Who's my inner circle? Who's keeping me on point and making sure that I don't shift beyond my character? I don't want to be bigger on the outside. I want to be bigger on the inside. And so that inner circle keeps me there. And then finally, it's this outer circle. Who has challenged you lately? As a leader, a CEO of 6 companies, multi-million-dollar companies that I'm keeping up with all of this, who has challenged me to lead differently lately? And if as a leader, I can't answer that question, I haven't surrounded myself with the right kind of people. I need to be challenged to do more, to think differently, to be differently, to shift. And the only way that happens is when we surround ourselves with people that can do that. Awesome. So what I'd love to do is I'd love to give us an application. So I want you to assess yourself on adaptability. Go take our little accountability assessment and assess yourself. And then I want to challenge you to go give somebody around you the same assessment about you. Let them assess you. And then I want you to get together with them and I want you to compare notes. Find out where the gaps are and see what you can do to close those gaps and begin a mindset that will allow you to make these shifts that John Maxwell talks about.